talk to you about is this fact, which is up on screen, right? I think everyone has read this MIT McKinsey fact, which says 5% of these actual agentic enterprise AI implementations are working out, right? But there's another fact up on screen, right? 66% of consumers are using Gen AI regularly and derive value from it. So where is this missing 61%, right? I'm going to talk to you about this in the Indian context. I'm going to give you some examples, I'm going to give you some stories, and I'm going to try to figure it out with you. How do we take that 5% number and make it 66, not just 66, but make it 99 and 100%. But before all of that, I have a simple puzzle for you. You need to get from this arrow on the right side of me or the left side of you to the arrow on top. I've done this several places, schools, colleges, large corporate boardrooms. And I've got different time periods of answers. So as soon as you're done with this, please let me know, just raise your hand. Arrow on the left to the arrow on top. See one hand. All right. First things first, the maze is unsolvable. So if anyone went through the maze, it's unsolvable. But hear me out on what was the query I put to you. I told you to go from the arrow on the left to the arrow on top. I never used the words maze. I never used the words black lines. I never said you have to go through it. Intuitively, a lot of you may have seen this as the answer, right? Or you could have seen this as the answer. I've seen school kids said, you never said anything about going, through this. The problem that we have when we come to the enterprise, right, and when we come to implementing AI in India is this. We as consumers have first principle thinking. But when we talk about the enterprise, when we talk about businesses, status quo bias comes into place, right? You're trying to innovate. You're trying to see the powerful agentic AI, which all of us are talking about as enterprises, as companies. But the challenge is, as a consumer, you have that. But as an enterprise, you have that. So how do you bridge this gap? And how do you do it in India is something I'm very excited to talk to you about. One of the key things I have a problem with is this word. AI is a great enabler. I don't believe that. I believe AI changes everything for each and every business out there. And I'll give you an example of that. About 6 years ago, Forbes was celebrating its 100-year anniversary. They reached out to us, a company in India, and said they want to do something with AI for that. And my team got very excited. I was like, wow, Forbes, 100 years, they want to work with fluid AI. This is going to be amazing. And the ideas that we came up with were all in the enabler category, right? We said, hey, AI can make the cover. AI can write all the articles with the journalists, right? Enablement, enablement, enablement. But that doesn't really use AI as the game changer it is. The query, then we put it again, and we asked Forbes, what is the one thing your readers enjoy the most? They said access to the best personalities of the world. They had Warren Buffett for the 100-year anniversary. So we said, okay, so it's access, right? It's an interview that a journalist does with a great personality like Warren Buffett. But what if a journalist can ask how many questions in an interview? 30 questions, 40 questions, 50 questions, 30 of them get printed. But what if each and every reader could be their own interviewer, right? Each and every person, someone wants to ask Warren about his thoughts on marriage, someone on investment. Is that possible? And that's what we did from Made in India. We got it out to the world. It was supposed to be a 1-month implementation, but it went on to run for 3 years. Over 180 million questions asked to Warren. And when we showed it to the great man, he said, wow, you've made me immortal. So have a look at this implementation in action.
Can I say, I looked at this and I said, what does this mean? First ever AI cover. What does that mean?
Well, Warren worked closely with us and a company called Fluid AI. You take a picture of that cover, a three-dimensional image, holograph of Warren pops up.
So can anyone guess the number one question Warren was asked? The AI version of Warren? Anybody in the audience? What would you ask Warren? So the number one question Warren was asked.
Bottom of the screen, ask me questions.
Warren, what should I invest in?
Invest in yourself. You can't beat it. I see people that can increase their potential.
So when you look at AI's impact across, right, teachers, doctors get a 1.5x productivity boost. Their output remains the same, they get assistance obviously, but the quality and quantum remains the same. Lawyers, coders, 10x, right? Their output quantums increase and massively, right? When you see AI generating 90% of code, when you see AI generating briefs, contracts, drafts, etc., that's the 10x. That's the areas we need to worry about is the 1000x ranges, right? When AI can create a complete video by itself, when AI can handle a complete call center by itself. So when you look at your enterprises, right, and when you look at your industries, try to see where AI will affect each of your companies in all these three factors. There'll be 50% productivity boosts, there'll be 10x areas as well, and there'll be these 1000x areas. You need to be worried most about those 1000x areas. Another thing that gets people scared is that AI is going to create so much content. We talk about AI slop, we talk about so much AI productivity. What happens on the demand side? And I really wouldn't worry about that. If you look at the house in the typical 1900, it had a chair, a table, etc., right? In 2025, our houses are full of stuff. That was the Industrial Revolution's effect on allowing consumption to increase massively. Now what we believe is that digital consumption is going to increase the same way. So there's really no demand constraint out there. So what we are looking at is higher wages, higher bars for performance, obsolescence in a few select areas, but amazing lives as consumers essentially. These are the four things that sort of come together. So I've talked a lot about it, but I want to show you something very practically in action. For a long time in my company, and we started this in 2012, we wanted to do a TV ad film. You know, we said, hey, that's the way to create a brand. And we'd seen all these global brands create beautiful TV creations. And we used to go to these ad agencies and they would say, hey, it could cost $600,000 to $1 million to create a state-of-the-art ad. And we never really had that budget. Last year, using the power of agents and Gen AI, we did that ad at a fraction of a cost. We did it in $1,500. And it got over 15 million views across. So imagine, an ad that was going to cost us $600,000 to $1 million got done in less than $1,500 with a set of AI agents. I want to show you that ad. We put it with the French Revolution. We created call centers which were working then. And it had about 40 different actors. And it created a script of its own.
Your Majesty!
The people are revolting!
The banking system has collapsed and hold times have reached 15 minutes.
Down with wait times! We demand better service!
Let them wait.
The 30-minute SLA has caught fire! What do we do? Escalate it to the monarchy!
If your support centre still looks like this, I dare say it's time for a rethink. Let's show you what the future could look like today.
Your internet banking password has been reset. Can I help you with anything else? Support doesn't have to feel like a 1790s customer revolt, with torches, scrolls, and people screaming about refund. This isn't just AI, it's transformation.
Forget old tech. Your path to a stress-free customer support center.
So the ability to sort of move beyond convention, right? You're going to see, if you're a large enterprise, you now have smaller teams that can enable this. If you're a smaller enterprise, you can play with the big boys as well. So that is something that is going to enable a lot of the small Indian entrepreneurs, the SMEs, right? The folks that we sort of never compete with the large brands. They're going to come out with new innovations. Another area that we feel is going to truly transform is customer support. I think one of the first areas that we tried with AI, and this was just 7-8 years ago, was the chatbot world. And it was such a frustrating world, right? Because a lot of people said, whenever there's a chatbot, I'm going to press 9, I'm going to confuse the bot so I can get escalated to human. But that's not the world of today. Today, when AI voice agents take over the call, they are extremely fluid. They change context. They are able to understand the customer at another level. And they're going to enable thousands and millions of smaller organizations who never looked at customer support as a real-time activity, who never looked at it as a significant cost center or as a significant business center. They can too have the customer support that a $1 billion organization has. $1 billion organization has.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Fluid Bank. How can I assist you today?
I wanted to block my credit card. Can we speak in Hindi instead?
बिल्कुल, हम हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं. कृपया मुझे आपकी
नहीं
माँ.
नहीं, मराठी में बात करते हैं.
नक्कीच, आपण मराठीत बोलूया. कृपया मला आपल्या आईच्या मूळचे आडनाव
आपको
सांगा.
मारवाड़ी आती है? हम मारवाड़ी में बात कर सकते हैं.
हाँ जी, हम मारवाड़ी में बात कर सकते हैं. कृपया अपनी माताजीरो मूल नाम बताओ, જેની સાબ मैं आपरो क्रेडिट कार्ड ब्लॉक कर सकूं.
तमिल आती है आपको? हम तमिल में बात कर सकते हैं क्या?
நாம் தமிழ்ல பேசலாம். தயவு செய்து உங்களுக்கு அம்மாவின் செல்ல.
कन्नड़ में बात कर सकते हैं क्या आप?
ಹೌದು, ನಾವು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾತಾಡಬಹುದು. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮ್ಮ ತಾಯಿಯವರ ಹೆಸರನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸಿ. ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಅನ್ನು.
पंजाबी में बात करते हैं.
जी हाँ, ਅਸੀਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ. ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਾਤਾ ਜੀ ਦਾ ਮੂਲ ਨਾਮ ਦੱਸੋ.
Speak in English again. Can you help me block my card, please?
Of course, we can continue in English. Please provide your mother's.
So the transaction will go on, but if you see, India, so many languages, seamless transition, right? It's no longer about 1 for English, 2 for Hindi, 3 for Marathi. It's all about let the user speak as they want and keep changing to the user. Seamlessly transition from one language to the other. You no longer need to have folks in each and every part of the country. The AI can do that. You can now serve every pin code of India and have customer support at scale, at quality that's possible for a complex country like India. So that is the opportunity all of us have. How do you de-risk this journey, right? I think India as an enterprise IT market has a big challenge with risk, right? We are okay being number 2, number 3, number 4, but we don't want to take the risk. Our leaders, our business leaders will come back and say, how much risk are you taking? I know the value is there, but I don't want to take too much risk. And what I would say is, there is a way to marry innovation with risk, which we have seen in India. So this is a journey of a bank that we worked with, which was having a terrible time with customer support. And they came to us and said, we want to launch voice AI. Within 1 month, because the customer support numbers were in the tank, the CEO level was involved in saying we need to change. And you know what we pushed back and told them was, we're not going to launch phone voice straight up. We're going to do it in your time frame. We're going to do it in 2 months' time. But we're going to go down this modular risk journey with you. So first what we started with a human agent assist. We said, give AI to your human agents to improve productivity. Let's see how they use it. Let them challenge some of the hallucinations. Let them put the right guardrails in. Within 3 weeks, we moved it to email support. Email was just 5% of the number of support tokens they get, but it sort of gave us the asynchronous place for the AI to play. We took it up to AI live chat, and then we took it to phone in 2 months. This journey was very exciting for the bank because at each step, the risk increased just a little, but the value increased tremendously. Rather than a big bang phone AI or a voice AI implementation, wherein there would have been a lot of challenges, a lot of pushback, a lot of doubt, a lot of risk, this almost did away with that risk component while allowing innovation to happen. Now, I have a very interesting one, right? Your IT leaders, a lot of you are pushing AI within your organization, but the weight of expectations from leadership, from teams comes in, right? And I'm going to show you a few graphs and let me know how you think AI implementations in India work out. Do people think this is the typical AI implementation? Initially, results are slow as people are getting used to, and then they go up. How many in the room think this is a typical AI implementation chart in India? I see one hand. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Do you think it's sort of this way? You get initial great results, and then things plateau off as the AI sort of does its magic, and that's about it? Any hands in the room? I see 2. I don't have many more graphs if any of you are. Or is it more of a straight line? You know, AI innovates, people innovate, so we sort of, go straight up. Any hands in the room? Okay, I see one at the back. All right. I would say before giving the actual implementation experience I have seen in the country, is I would say, look at these 2 stars, right? The graph is Y on the performance on the Y-axis, time on the X. How many of you would prefer to be the blue star or the red star? So how many in it for the blue? Hands in the air. I see reasonable. And how many, I'm guessing the rest want to be red, which is very rare because mostly I see more hands for the blue. But yeah, so what happens when you look at an AI implementation is you've got to look at it not from a point in time analysis. And what we need to sort of tell our leadership is that it's not point in time. There's a direction to these things. What if I told you this is the journey of the blue and the red, right? The blue is on top, but the red is sort of going to accelerate. And there are two companies out here which did that, right? Netflix sort of accelerated way ahead of Blockbuster, left Blockbuster to be dead in bankruptcy. And that's the kind of journey you look at when it comes to an AI implementation. This is what I see with most AI implementations in India, right? You start off with good results. That's when AI is handling the happy use cases, the happy parts. That's when leadership is fully invested. That's when the training has just worn off. So everyone's using AI intensively. Your AI agentic use case is looking beautiful. But you are going to hit a death valley, right? That's when leadership is now other priorities. That's when the edge cases pile up. That's when the challenges hit. But if you know this scenario exists, that's when the best IT implementations, that's when you look at redoing your guardrails. That's when you look at new data sources. That's when you look at even tighter integrations with system of records, right? So it's not about being, there are no straight lines. There are no curves. There is going to be this AI death valley. But if you get your leadership, get yourself, get your teams accustomed that they are these death valleys. And at the death valley is when you get the most insight. At the death valley is when you learn the most and when you innovate the most. That's when you get results in the Indian context. I think one superpower for AI, which I'm really excited about, it was in the news a lot in early 25 and it sort of faded out. But I really encourage a lot of Indian enterprises to look at it again, is MCP, Model Context Protocol. I think a lot of times AI will need to integrate with your system of records, right? ERPs, CRMs, all of that. But if the integration is going to happen on the old layers, it's going to happen on APIs, etc., you're not really using the power of AI, right? Because MCP is that one protocol which sort of gets the entire system of record into the AI, right? It creates a massive change in the way your AI implementation will run and perform. One thing that we've really looked at is the agents must go live in 60 days. I think in India, there's a lot of challenge where we say, okay, we're going to test this out, we're going to use this. Even launch the smallest agent, but take it out in 60 days. Because the field is so fast and the model improvement is so high, and you need to learn a lot from a real-world implementation. We really encourage almost all customers that any element in agentic AI must go live in 60 days. It can improve, it can evolve, but the first go live, the first hit to the user must be in 60 days. So I've talked about AI strategy, but there's one thing about AI philosophy that's been very deep to me. So I started in this field a long time ago, in 2012. And one of the key lessons from AI I learned, and one thing that AI is really good at, is it lacks emotion. That's also the most challenging part of AI, is that it lacks emotion, right? It's completely rational. So when we used to sort of look at developing AI models way back in 2017, etc., one of the key things we understood was that the AI models we selected were the models which made mistakes earlier, right? They made a lot of mistakes. We used to call it error rate. Because if a model is making a lot of mistakes, it gets a lot of supervised training from us, and it would perform. So we would ironically look for models which had high error rates in the beginning. But one of my engineers came up to me and said, you know what, we look for models with high error rates, but you add emotion to the word error rate, and it becomes the word on the left, failure, right? So when you're doing your AI implementations, I would say do not discount the role of failure, right? If your teams are putting in a lot of effort, they're getting things out there, yes, there will be failures, but don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as an error rate which you can build upon, a muscle that you're building, so that when you go ahead, things actually fall into place.